Hi
Hi
guys.
guys, welcome to another video. And this time, me and Nimank are in Udaipur, the city of lakes. And हमारे चेहरे थोड़े उतरे हुए हैं. उसका रीज़न अभी थोड़ी देर में पता चलेगा. But without any further ado, let's go to round one. But before the round one, I have to say that this is an awesome tournament. इतनी बढ़िया इन्होंने कस्टमाइज प्लेयर कार्ड्स दिए हैं. लंच इतना बढ़िया है, डिनर भी बढ़िया था, ब्रेकफास्ट भी बढ़िया था. और वेन्यू बहुत ही मस्त है. एसी हॉल विद प्रॉपर इक्विपमेंट्स, एज इन द बोर्ड इज़ प्रॉपर न्यू, और डीजीटी क्लॉक्स भी 3000 सीरीज़ वाले नए वाले हैं. सो मज़ा आ रहा है इस टूर्नामेंट में. गेम में मज़ा आया कि नहीं वो अभी देखते हैं. So this first game is round one for Nimang's game, Nimang's round one, and let's get jump into the game, and he'll be giving his insights and what he was thinking through this game throughout. Okay, so yeah.
So the game started with the knight e4, e5, knight f3. I was white in this game, and it was a standard Italian, like nothing new. But I played this move here, which is Evans Gambit, and I was unsure if I should go into this because I don't know the theory completely, and
But it was
turns
his preparation. इसकी preparation थे
I
Evans Gambit.
mean, preparation, but not really preparation. Like it's half-baked preparation.
Okay.
So I went into it, and this all is fine. But here I should have castled, which is the correct move. Instead, I played pawn takes d4. He gave this check, and I had to trade the dark square bishops in this position. Now I felt pretty bad because dark square bishop is a very key attacking piece. You can place it on a3, and maybe in some lines it also goes on g5. Yeah, so it's a very key attacking piece, and you should not trade it. But I allowed this trade, which was a little sad for me. The game went on with him
यहाँ ये
developing
देख के
his
खुश
knight.
हो
Yeah.
गया था, नाइट एफ देख के खुश हो
Yeah,
गया.
yeah, मतलब because this knight is very prone to attacks. Both the knights are very prone to attacks. I can play either e5 or d5 to attack the knights. And
Yeah.
I thought about some time, but I didn't play d5 because d5 knight to a5, and my bishop is attacked, and I'll have to move it, and he can play d6, and it's a game. So I went for the quick e5, uh, and after e5 he played d5, which I think is a good try, and he took, and I took. I got back the pawn that I sacked, and in this position I castled. Now I was feeling okayish, but in many other positions he has threats of playing queen d5, and no, he has threats of playing queen d5, bro.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and queen d5 is a very strong move, like centralizing the queen, and my position is like it's okay, but it's not as good. Black is doing perfectly fine in this position, I feel like. And he played bishop h3, which I expected, of course, before I castled. I gave this check, he sidestepped with the king, and I played g3. Now I also anticipate his next move, which is bishop to g5. And here I played queen to,
B3.
queen to b3. Now,
यहाँ पे there was some move, right? What was it?
yeah, instead of queen to b3, I think.
Oh, queen. Nee, what was the move?
Yeah,
This was the move, I think.
yeah, I think this is the move.
Yeah, there was some crazy idea we saw later कि after d5 he plays some knight e7 and then queen c1 and some random shit happening here.
Yes.
It was some tough idea.
There's also the idea of playing the straightforward knight to e3.
Knight to e3. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, maybe in this position, maybe not. But yeah, when he played b6, I understood that he's not a very experienced player. He's defending his pawn.
His words
in
were
such
कि
a
after
position.
b6 ये noob था, पता चल गया.
And I went for rook e4. I was very happy with rook e4 when I found it. Because rook e4 is a multi-purpose move. It lifts my rook, gets it ready for the attack on his uncastled king, and also it attacks his bishop, defends my pawn, gets ready to double up, and it's a very good move. Also setting up a small sneaky trap here, which he fell into. Unfortunately, he took the knight, and I took the bishop.
Oh.
Now I'm threatening stuff. Already this diagonal is pretty weak, and also I have threats of playing rook to f4 in certain lines.
Yeah.
But he made it pretty simple for me. He took with the pawn and it takes, and like this game ended pretty anticlimactically. I missed a mate in 2 here where I could have
Queen
played
f5.
queen f5 and then queen takes g5 mate, but
Yeah.
it's all in that ends well. It's war.
All sends that ends well.
Yeah, whatever. That's the end of the
So
game.
that was round one for Nimank. I'll just quickly show my round one as well because it was a quick game. It was a miniature with just 13 moves, and I opened with c4, and she was a small girl. She opened with e5, the reverse Sicilian variation. I played knight c3. She played knight c6. I brought out the other knight, and she played this bishop b4 move. Uh, this is not seen in this particular setup before I play d3 or d4 because now I have the option of moving the knight away. So I played knight d4, knight d5, attacking the bishop, and if I get the bishop, that's good for me. She played it back, which is actually one of the best moves, bishop d6. And here I was pondering about d4 or e4. Both moves looked good, but I settled on e4 with the idea that okay, next move I'm gonna play d4 and I'll have bishop g5. My bishops are coming out, and yeah, his pieces are kind of oddly placed here. So she played knight f6, and after knight f6, I was okay if she trades on d5. I would have a central good center. So here I just simply defend. I was thinking about queen c2, but then I thought maybe she'll play knight b4. So why go into the complication? So I just simply played d3, defending both the pawns, and I was okay with this trade. It is a double pawn, but it's a very good center, and eventually I'll play d4, so it's nice for me. She castled, and here I was like, what? Okay, I'm getting this pin. I thought the only move has to be bishop e7 because what else can she play? Because there's a very nasty pin here with a lot of pressure on the knight. But she played h6, and here I had a small blind spot. I thought that I was thinking about knight takes f6, which was probably best. But then I started thinking about knight f6 and hg5, which was not at all possible because the king was in check. But I was thinking in knight f6, you put bishop maar degi, and this is not good. So let's just take with the bishop. Okay, spoiler alert. Bishop takes f6. She took with the pawn. I went knight h4 with the idea, okay, I'll do these kinds of stuff. I'll attack the king since the light square bishop is not developed yet. She played knight d4, which is what I expected, and here I went queen h5, not caring about the rook on e1, which is not even doing anything. I had a sense that she would play knight c2. I was okay with playing king d1. She took the rook, and I took on h6, and this was already over because knight f6 is coming. She played c6. I didn't even go for the queen. I went for knight f5 here, and after knight f5, she took the knight, and I mated her. So that was a miniature, and with that, with slightly
I
good
checkmated her.
I checkmated her, and with slightly good spirits, we went into round two, and let's go to Nemank's second round. We were both black, and we were playing 17. She was playing a 1746, and I was playing against some 1780 guy. So pretty strong opponents, but we were confident about our play, so we went into it with a strong heart and mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I was black, and the game started in standard e4 e5 fashion. This is all standard stuff, the opening theory, the Italian game. And in this position, I played e5 to stop b4. My opponent castled. I played d6, and in the center, all standard moves. He played rook, and I castled. Now, in this position, my opponent pushes my bishop back to b3, which I thought maybe I could take advantage of if I coaxed him into capturing my bishop, which would waste a tempo. But he just slid back the bishop. Now, this is a very pretty common middle game. Although I have to say I'm not very experienced in this middle game per se, but it's a very common one in the Italian game. My opponent is threatening d4 and d5. Uh, yeah, d5, whatever, and it's pretty scary because d5 is like a fork, and d4, if I take, I'll have to drag back my bishop, and then d5 is forced. So in this position, I just preemptively brought my bishop back to avoid this threat.
Hmm.
And I think my opponent missed his chance to play d4 in this position, because d4 maybe I'll have to take, and my plan was on d4 to bring my bishop back and play this position. If he keep captures on e5, I'll take with the knight. That was the plan. But my opponent saw some phantom threat that maybe after d4 and e takes d, c takes d, I had some this stuff. So he preemptively stopped knight b4, I think, by playing a3. I was not really worried about that stuff. I maneuvered my knight to the other side of the board. The idea of this maneuver was that now I'm not afraid of this move, and I can keep my bishop on e6 still.
Yeah.
Uh, we played some standard development moves. Now in this position, I was expecting my opponent's development, and the only standard course of development was him bringing his knight to f5. Which the idea of this five move, three or four move maneuver made me a little uncomfortable, because I didn't want him to want to see his knight on here. And if his knight ever came here and I captured with the bishop, he captured with the pawn, this would be a kind of unpleasant position for me, which I didn't want to go into. So instead, I came up with the idea of playing f5 myself, which admittedly was a poor decision. He played knight to d2, and I played f5 too early. Now, in this position, I'd like to point out that f5 is a blunder, purely because of after pawn takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and this I've just lost this pawn on d5, because if I don't take, let's say
The bishop.
I played bishop takes bishop, but even if I don't play that, I take back with the pawn. He can play bishop captures on b6. I play cb, and then he can take the pawn back on e5. So I'm losing a pawn here no matter what I do. This was a pretty simple miscalculation on my part, and the game was pretty over from this point. I took the bishop, he took with the rook, and took the pawn. For some reason, he didn't take the pawn. I thought that was fine, but I was getting some counterplay, admittedly. I, he took with the bishop, but if he took with the pawn, let's say if he took with the knight, I had some counterplay ideas of, let's say, this, 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 and bring my queen out to f6, attacking f2. And if he ever goes back to defend, I have some ideas of bringing my knight out as well. In oh sorry, if he goes back, if he brings his knight out, then I was planning to bring my knight out
I
for the
think rook e2,
counterplay.
rook e8 also there.
Yeah, and on rook e2, I had rook e8
Rook e8. Yeah.
actually. Yeah, so I had some counterplay, and I think he saw that, so he didn't go into all this stuff. He simplified and smartly decided to take the b7 pawn instead, which was falling with check, uh, falling after a check. And in this position, I cannot play rook to b8, because his queen goes to e4, and after it comes to e4, it attacks the rook, and he can defend the pawn. Also, I cannot play rook to f5, f4 after that, because queen takes, knight is a threat. So I played the knight to f6. He played his queen to c6. I attacked his pawn, and he brought his knight out. In this position, I was starting to make a little comeback, because I was play all these moves on my part, knight to f6 and rook to b8 were good moves, but it apparently was not enough, because my opponent was also playing very good. And I tried to simplify a bit in this position, but it was of no avail, because he defended his pawn, and I had very little targets. I attacked his rook went to g3. I attacked his queen went to c5, and I defended my rook so that I can make use of this uh, discovery. Yeah. So after this move, although he took the pawn, it was a pawn sacrifice. I and I played e3. From this position, it was all downhill. I didn't have nothing. I was just trying stuff at this point, flailing round and about. But the best chance was to bring my knight here and bring it here to pressure this pawn. This was the best course of action, although I missed the idea because I thought after I go there and he gives a check and I go up, his rook can come here and I have nothing because in certain I don't have anything in this position, although in this position my rook is defended, but yeah, I actually didn't see much beyond this point. So what happened in the game was I pushed the pawn trying something and I took here, but it was all bad because his pieces got active very quickly and his rook came to the last rank. b5 was the only chance I had to defend the mate, but my opponent found the finishing blow very nicely. He went rook to h7, which was a very good move. The only
Yeah.
move that survives here is queen to f6, but sadly I didn't play it because it led to an easy end game after queen trade, simple queen trade, or
Rook
rook
f3.
rook f3. Yeah. So I went queen here, hoping for something maybe. Sorry. Uh, yeah. I went queen f3, hoping for some kind of hoping for some kind of discovery on the rook or an attack on his knight, but it didn't happen because he gave this check, and sadly it led to a mate. Because after I
Yeah, king
king,
h4 and rook h3.
yeah, it's a mate.
Well, that's okay, man. Better, better luck next time.
Thank you, man.
Don't worry, guys. If you think this was the sad part, keep watching.
Stay tuned for more sad part.
Stay tuned for more sadness in this life. Okay, so we go to round two, which I played against 17, 80 or 90 opponent. His name was Devansh Singh, and he had a big hair, man, like a Gillespie, Australian bowler. That kind of a hair. Anyways.
Not necessary, bro. Nobody is interested.
No, they are, man. They need the context. Okay, he was like, head bobbing kind of guy. Imagine Hikaru with long hair.
Lean into it.
Yeah. So imagine that. And so I played Sicilian, and he played some weird Maroczy Sicilian, man. And I didn't know against it. I mean, I didn't know the exact setup to play against this. So I played something I normally play, which is d6, and then he played knight e2, and usually knight doesn't come here. So I was like, okay, maybe he's trying for d4 here, which is logical, trying for d4, getting the center, getting the knight. So I just played g6, trying to play a dragon kind of structure. He played d4 as planned. He took, and I played my g7, bishop on g7, and here I was okay. I mean, I was happy with the position. Nothing much is happening. So he played bishop e3. I played knight c6. So here I was recalling some idea which I saw a long time ago, that whenever you have some more oxybine structures, you have to break that center, right? So you can either break with something like b5, a6, b5 minority pushes, or you can break with f5 here. So in order to break with f5, you play knight h6 and try to go for f5 with the support of the knight. So that was something which I was aiming for. But currently, if I play knight h6 now, there was some issue here. There was some issue due to which I wanted to play knight c6 first and kind of put pressure on the knight here. There was some issue. I don't know what this is. But okay, knight c6 I played, putting some more pressure here. If the queen ever moves, then I would be able to take the knight. He played knight c3, and now I played knight h6. With the idea that okay, now I'm going to play f5. I think basically I delayed knight h6 because now I could even take and then go knight f5. I mean f5. He went bishop e2, simply stopping this idea of knight g5, because if he did not, I was also having some plans of going knight g4 and picking up his dark square bishop, which is very, very crucial in these positions. So here I castled, which is the best move. He played h4, and here I went into a 40-minute think tank, because h4 is already attacking here in the king side, and I was looking at variations where I was playing f5, or do I want to go something like knight takes, bishop takes, e5, and then e5, bishop e3, and then f5. Making d6 was not what I was aiming at, so I did not like this, because d6 was a permanent weakness. I would never be able to get d5, and if he castles queenside in these positions, then my bishop is looking like a big idiot. in on g7. So after all these calculations and variations, I finally played f5, which is the best move in the position actually. He took on c6, I took on c6, which I was very happy because now the d5 square is covered and I don't have any troubles of the knight or the queen coming in here and annoying me. So he went queen d2, but queen d2 I was actually happy because the moment the queen moves, the g4 square was available to me. I um, I played knight g4 and the PC started to hang, and I played knight g4 and he instantly took. I think he was already expecting this, and I also took. And this position, I was not at all worried about the double pawn. If given a chance, I can even play h5 maybe. Uh, Bishop g5 was a threat, but still, I have h6 and all these lines. Okay, my PC is hanging now. But okay, let's just quickly wrap this up. He played h5, basically attacking and trying to do the standard Sicilian ideas with bishop h6 and takes and queen h6 mating ideas. I played calmly queen e6 with the idea that let's bring more pieces in the game. And if he takes on g6, I take with the queen. I'm not going to make arrows now. Just imagine the queen going on g6, and if when my queen is on f7 or g6, it's pretty safe, and my king is also safe. Even knight e2 here with the idea of, like it's pointed out, that if I take on h5, he'll go knight f5 and pick up knight f4 and pick up the h pawn. Also, the knight was not doing much on c3, so he's kind of rerouting. But here I played rook b8, which is the best move, and basically pressuring this b2 pawn, and he had no really good way of kind of defending it. He cannot play b3 because the rook is hanging. There was some issue with the knight coming here because if the knight comes here, I had c5. If knight b5, then I had a6, and if he comes here, then I can take on. I mean, I can move the queen to f7, and then or d7, and then I can take on b2. There were some ideas here, so that I think one of the only moves which actually he played was bishop takes bishop d4, and here I was thinking about two candidate
Actually, I
moves.
meant to ask, what's the issue with
Yeah.
playing the knight to d4? Yeah, pushing, and then knight here and a6, and
Yeah.
going back to c6 after a6.
Oh, going back to
c3.
c3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was actually fine, but the engine evaluations showed that it was minus 1.5.
I mean,
So,
okay.
so it's bad for
Fair
one,
enough.
right? But I think a6 is not the move here. I think after this there was some move. What was the move? I forgot.
Yeah, I think the move was g takes h5.
Ah, right. Just take the pawn here, right? Of course.
Yeah.
G takes h5, and I'm a pawn up, and there is no attack here. I can play queen g6 and then maybe push h6. Right. So thanks for that. And we go queen e8, knight e2, bishop e2, and then I played queen f7 with the idea that okay, the bishop cannot move because there are ideas of queen f2 here, and I'm attacking the c4 pawn here. The b2 pawn is kind of threatened if the bishop ever moves and takes on a7 and gets greedy. So there's a lot of pressure which I'm putting. So I was really happy with the position here. He took on g6, I also took on g6, and he played knight g3 because the e4 pawn was attacked. Knight f4 was not a threat because of queen e4, and here I played bishop e6, basically provoking b3 because the c4 pawn is attacked, and how else would you even defend it? So he played b3 after a long think, and now I played. Here I was calculating the endgames basically, that how the endgames would be panning out. One idea was that okay, bishop takes, and then queen f6. The queen trade is forced, so if he takes, then rook takes, knight h5. I have to go rook f7. Then his knight is kind of iffy, so he'll play g3 to try and go knight f4, and then I'll have to play bishop d7, trying to kick the knight from f4 if he ever comes. So knight f4, f5. So basically, this was the endgame which I was calculating, and I was not really happy because he had a solid pawn structure in the center. He had space. His king would come in, and my pieces and especially my light square bishop was kind of getting cramped. So I did not like the endgame. So what I did was I took the bishop first, and then after queen takes, I played something crazy, which was rook f4, with the idea that if he took on a7, I'll play rook f8, and he cannot take on e7 because of rook takes e4, knight takes e4, queen takes e4. If he goes to f1, then there is bishop c4 check and winning the queen, and if he goes here, then I just do this, and the rook is hanging if he moves the king, and if he ever comes to the second rank, then there is rook f2 with check, and it's a mate very soon. So with this idea, I kind of sacrifice this a7 pawn for some activity, he thought for a while and I think got scared and he played queen e3, and I quickly played rook f8. I completely missed his next idea, but apparently what I played was also the best move. Rook f8 is the best move, and he played knight f5 with the idea that okay, you have to give up one of the rooks. There was queen g5 here, defending the rook, and then maybe next move taking this, but but in the I was already very low on time, by the way. I was under 2 minutes or 3 minutes, so I quickly took on f5 with the idea that okay, my bishop is very strong on the in the center, and I'll have, I think, some counterplay and also maybe another pawn, 2 pawns for the rook, or like the exchange basically.
I mean, I meant to ask in the previous position, did you
Yeah.
notice queen g5?
Queen g5? No,
Yeah.
I did not. Queen g5 I completely missed. Otherwise, I would have played queen g5 actually, because queen g5 looks, I mean, it looks good to me.
Okay.
Maybe knight h6 was there or something, but I don't know. It looks okay only because queen g5 next time threatening bishop f5, and it's kind of hard. Like how would he defend that?
Right.
But I was under time pressure. I played rook f8. He played knight f5. I took on f5. He took the rook. I took on e4, and he played queen g3. And here I had the bishop. My bishop was active. His a1 rook was not active, but still had to do something. So I played bishop d3, stopping his kingside castle. I was okay if the king goes this side. At least it's a bit more exposed than the king side. And he played king d2. I was expecting queenside castle, after which I don't know, I would play d5 or something. But he played king d2, and here I played under time pressure a very tricky move, bishop c2, with the idea that if he plays some random move like rook e1, I had this extremely beautiful move rook f3. And the whole point is that I'm cutting the queen off from the defense of the d3 square, and if he takes with the pawn, I go queen d3. I'm not able to make arrows because of the lag, but okay, just imagine queen d3, king goes back to c1, and queen c3, basically threatening a discovery. And then if he takes on g4, then my bishop comes back with check and it's a mate. And otherwise I think I'd pick up the rook and it's a draw somewhere because of multiple checks. But that was the line which I was kind of a trick, which trap which I set up, but he didn't fall into it. And he played the best move, which is queen e3. After queen e3, I played d5, basically making a safe haven for my bishop in the center, and also breaking up in the center, because if he takes and opens up, my d file is opening up. He played rook c1, and here I briefly thought about sacrificing the rook with rook f2, queen f2, and then queen d3, but nothing was happening there. So I brought my bishop back, which was the best move. He played rook h6 and queen g7, and after queen g7 I was actually feeling good because I had multiple threats. One was rook f2, queen f2, and queen h6, and also I had queen g2 and rook f2 ideas, so I was happy with this. And then he played rook h5, which is actually the first blunder, and at this point the game is turning towards my favor, and I was actually better here. I played the best move, queen b2 check and king d1, and in time pressure I played this, which is rook f2, which is a good move, the second best move, but it loses all my advantage, and now it's a draw. The best move which I missed under time pressure was d4, because the queen is tied to this rook, and if he takes the bishop, I take the rook, and if you actually play something like queen d2, I take and take all his pawn. This is a completely dominating endgame. Not that I would have won that or anything, as you'll see in the coming moves, but still this was way better than what happened. But anyways, I actually took on f2. He actually frantically started moving and shaking here. It felt good to see that, and he was also coming low on time. He played rook g5. I played king h8. Again, the best move. He played queen c3, and now I was really happy because this endgame I loved it, because my bishop was just too strong. I had a very good passer, and here I knew that I was winning. I felt it, but then I got really low on time and I started messing it up. Slowly I started seeing ghosts here. After b5 I was like, oh my god, he's getting a passer, because I cannot take, and I cannot even take this because the bishop is hanging, and I don't know what not. I played king g6 with the idea that if he plays rook e5, I'll play king f6, rook h5, and king g6. I'm happy with the draw. I don't have any time. But he played rook e3, which is actually a blunder. I should have simply played e6 with the idea that even if he takes, of course I cannot take back because of rook e6, but after takes I should play rook c2 and then pick up the pawn this way. But I missed this idea. I did see e6, but I missed the idea that I can play rook c2 and pick up the pawn, and I played rook a2, and here things started to actually go wrong. After seeing his passer, I kind of lost it because I thought, okay, he's just queening now, and my bishop is hanging. I think the best move here is to
Play e3.
play e3. Yeah, e6, exactly.
E6,
E6 was
yeah.
the idea here. The thing is that e6, the rook is trapped. If he moves this rook to defend the pawn, then I just take the rook, and if he moves this rook somewhere, then I just simply bring rook c2 and pick up the pawn. That was the idea. It was pretty simple, but I don't know, my frontal cortex was too much overloaded, so I could not think anything. I played the worst move in the position probably, and gave up the bishop with some crazy line which was not even accurate, that I'll be able to queen this. He took the bishop, he put the rook behind, and he played king f2. I He
I
did not
mean,
play this.
I was watching this live from the sidelines,
Yeah.
and it was a
Uh,
pain to watch, man. And it's a hard question because up till this
uh, mm,
point, I think black is winning.
yeah.
But to just collapse
Basically,
like this and give away your bishop by playing this pawn, I mean, in what world is this pawn promoting? I was thinking, but
yeah, I mean, I was, this is what I calculated. Like, after this, I thought this, I'll push, he'll put his rook behind, I'll give a check, king f2, this, and I completely missed that he could just take. I thought this, and I'll queen, he'll take, and I'll have 2 or 3 versus 1 pawns. This should be winning. Even if he does something like this, I can go back and do this. But I completely missed that he can just take the pawn, which is terrible on my part. But yeah, that was round two, and we are both on 2 out of 1. Oh, sorry, one out of
I
two.
wish we were on 2 out of 1.
Yeah, we are on 1 out of 2, and well, it's not over. I think we are playing good, and I think we're giving a tough fight at the very least. And yeah, I think we're seeing good prospects here. There are some things to learn. Definitely, I'm saying this from the last tournament. For me, I have to learn end games, especially in time pressure. But yeah,
I mean, experience is a great teacher. You miss those ideas, and from the next time onwards, you often keep track of them.
definitely, yeah.
And analysis after these long thought games
Mm-hmm.
is super helpful. And I mean, it's
Definitely,
more
yeah.
effective than any kind of analysis you do after any blitz or rapid game or whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a learning curve, of course. I'm not too happy with my performance,
Mm.
but I think it's okay. It's the first day jitters,
Yeah,
and we'll shake it off.
definitely. Yeah, so on that note, let's end the video. We'll see you tomorrow. We have also shooted some vlogs of the venue and some random things, so we'll post it with that, with this video as well. So yeah, hope to see you again. Bye bye, Tada. Signing off. It's night. We have to sleep.
See ya.
So bye bye.